What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Stephen Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you get around to watching this. Once again, guys, Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. Hey, listen up, guys. I just want to take a couple seconds here and thank everybody that came along, was a part of the simulated mock draft we did on Saturday night. Guys, that was a lot of fun. That is one of the best times I've had doing the live, personally, even though that I really wish we could have gotten everyone together at the same time between me, Philly Fresh, and Philly Mike. But, hey, it was good having those guys come in, give their input, give their opinion, having all you guys in the comment section, kind of pitching in. Look, I was pretty satisfied with the draft. I mean, there's a couple things I might have done differently. Looking back on it now with the, the vision of hindsight, like not realizing that Matt Hennessy was going to last to the fourth round in that simulated draft. I probably would have waited and taken an opportunity to go get Matt Hennessy or another center in the third or fourth round, because there was an initial run on centers and then it dipped off on us. So I probably would have taken Patrick Queen with that second round pick, guys, if I'm being truthful. But yeah, man, I mean, I had a lot of fun, guys. I appreciate y'all for that. All right, y'all, today's topic. Hey, guys, this is for Thorne. It's for you, buddy. So we're going to talk about James Proche, wide receiver from SMU. Very interesting prospect, guys. Someone I wanted to come on here and I wanted to talk to you guys about because, hey, man, I got to tell you, I don't know how well he would fit with Philadelphia, but he's a good player, man. There's one catch he made in the Memphis game that I was watching that it's just stuck in my head. Just the crazy nature of how he secures this one-handed catch, guys, it's phenomenal. This kid is a very good underneath football player. He runs those routes you would generally see, honestly, you see a slot receiver run. He's quite successful at it. He's not a huge catch radius guy, but he's a very sure-handed catcher. He plays pretty well through contact. Like I said, he's not a contested catch guy in terms of like elevating and going and getting a football, but in terms of like kind of the comebacks and curls and things like that, I was pretty impressed with this young man. So without further ado, let's jump into today's topic and let's break down a little bit of film. Let's talk about James Proche, wide receiver, SMU. All right, y'all, let's get to it.
Steps up, delivers a long throw, and it's Proche.
All right, guys. James Proche. So, when I looked at film, guys, there was some interesting things about James Proche that stood out to me. To begin, I saw him play pretty much all three alignments, guys. I saw him play as a split end or an X. I saw him play quite a bit as a Z or a flanker, and he also played inside, essentially as a Y or a flanker. I'm sorry, a Y or a slot. My bad, guys. So, he really played all three alignments. They used him, on the boundary side. They used him on the field side. They ran him out of stacked sets. They ran him out of three wide. I mean, he pretty much played every little position there. One interesting thing I did notice about the young man, I thought it was, caught my attention. He seems to really play. He likes to play on the right side, whether it's the boundary or the field. So I'm not too sure that he really cares so much about being a split end, being a flanker. I don't think he even cares so much about the spacing of playing a boundary as opposed to playing the field side. For some weird reason, he likes to play on the right side. I saw a lot of snaps where this kid played on the right side of the offensive formation. That struck me as being a little odd. That kind of thing stands out to you when you're watching film. And certainly saw him play that way a lot. His route running was okay. Guys, watch his release here. He does nothing to set this cornerback up at all. Wasn't great. Certainly not the best route runner I've watched on film, guys. He definitely, at times, if he's matched up with a guy that's not quite as athletic as him, he can really get by them. I don't think that this kid is a burner. I don't see the long speed that's required to play more on the vertical route here. But I will say this. This kid he's tough, man. He went up and made some really difficult catches on the film. Shocked me a little bit. He's a guy that, on one hand, if we're talking about him playing the playing the boundary side, playing as that X-aligned receiver as a split end, I do think there are some concerns that at the next level, guys could come up and press him, try to throw him off his route. I don't know that he's good enough to win off the line of scrimmage with his release yet. I don't think he's particularly great with his hands. He's also not a guy that he's a strange guy, guys. He doesn't have a very long wingspan. He doesn't have very long arms. I want to say they measured out like 29 inches, which is very short for a receiver. but he's got fairly large hands. His hands are larger than what you would expect a guy with a 29-inch arm length. So kind of maybe that's what helps him with making these spectacular, weird catches, guys.
200 a game. Flags down, free snap. Michelle tosses it downfield. Proche.
That struck me as being a little odd on film here. With that said, look, like I said, I think he could definitely struggle on the boundary side with more physical, imposing cornerbacks to really get that separation and gain that separation. But at the same time, when he was running things like comebacks and curls, I really thought this young man fought through and did a pretty good job securing the catch.
An attack for those linebackers. On the end zone, Michelle delivers, and the catch made.
I thought he was pretty good at the catch point. This is not a guy who's going to get vertical on teams. He's not a big jump contested catch guy. But at the point of attack where it's, basically shoulder pad high, maybe slightly higher than that, he's, into the chest area. He's pretty good at catching it with his hands and then bringing it in, securing it strongly, and keeping that defensive back away from the ball. He made quite a few catches like this, guys. I was pleasantly surprised to see it on film.
Need 2 on third down. 4-man rush. Michelle gets the ball out. And another
If he were to play the flanker and you were to move him over basically to that, that Z receiver, guys, if you're moving him to the field side, I thought he worked pretty well on slants from the field side, which really would be an arsenal you could see play on the split end as well on that boundary side. I thought he did pretty good. On the underneath routes, guys, he looked different to me. He was very good playing those underneath routes to me. With that said, guys, he got deep on a couple of plays here. But I got concerned here, guys. He's not particularly dynamic as an athlete. This is not a guy that's going to run by a lot of NFL corners. He's not that kind of speed. He's a weird guy, guys, because I don't know how to explain this. I think he's more shifty and agile than fast.
Miss. Michelle zips it. And the slant. Proche has it again.
He's got very good sudden movements. And every now and then it really does show up on film. Because if you get this kid in kind of open space, they definitely tried to work him on screens, like wide receiver screens, and just really quick out passes.
Comes a blitz. It's a screen. Ball out underneath. Proche.
Just to kind of get him into space and let him use that ability. He looked good. Like, he's definitely got the agility. He definitely can cut back. He does pretty well with that. But he's definitely not like a burner. He's not running by people on film, guys. He's not really separating that far. But he does draw contact and gets flags. So even though he's not creating a lot of space, he's getting enough space to have the quarterback's trust to try to fit it in. And then he draws contact from the defensive back. I thought he's really good at drawing that contact.
Outrunner, but this time he just uses speed. Gets behind Carter, and then Carter.
And to be honest with you guys, I think he has the ability to work the intermediate level. So I do think he has that ability to kind of play, underneath and intermediate. So some of those kind of longer 10 to 15 yard range, I don't think you're going to see this kid get past 20 yards too much. Although he did it quite successfully in college, guys. I counted 9 games where he had receptions of 21 yards or greater this past season, which is a pretty good stat line. But just judging what I see on the film, guys, and the athleticism of an NFL corner, I don't think that's going to translate to the next level. Not consistently, at least. Now, what I will say is that the slot positioning, he wasn't used that much, but that's where the majority of scouts have him projected to play at the next level. In the slot, guys, this is what I saw personally. A lot of gadget plays coming from the slot.
First and go. And it's a reverse, and we're going to throw the ball back. Proche will just...
So, I think if you take the route tree he was running on the outside as both a split end and as a flanker, it translates to those underneath routes as a slot. I think this kid could work in as a slot and be quite effective. To be honest with you guys, if we didn't have a guy like Greg Ward Jr., I think I'd be much higher on this kid. Because I do think this kid is going to be an effective slot receiver. I think this kid has the ability to work the middle of the field because while he's not a contested jump up in the air, snatch it away from people, he's not a 42-inch vertical guy. He is a strong hands, will fight. I don't have a lot of wingspan, but if you put the ball within my grasp, my reach, although my catch radius isn't that large, if you put it where I can reach it, I'm a tough guy to take the ball away from. So I do think that he would work across the middle of the field well. I mean, he's like 5'11", 200 some pounds, which is a pretty solid build for a receiver. I do think he can play with a little toughness across the middle of the field. I think teams looking for that type of player, I think this kid can get deep. I wish I would have been able to see this young man run at the combine. He was probably banking on that pro day. So we just don't know. I don't know if he's a 4.5 guy. I mean, the guy runs anything with a 4.5 on it. I think this kid is going to be an NFL caliber receiver. And I mean, look, you got other guys, I mean, that are not that burners. I mean, Greg Ward Jr. is not a burner. He's a shifty guy. So I do think he can fit that role for a team. I do think that teams can be encouraged by what they see on film from this young man.
Touchdowns in the country. Not a lot of chances yet. Why not?
All right, let's talk about this young man's productivity. Over the past 2 years, this young man has been very productive. 90 receptions or more over the last 2 seasons. I believe he's been a 1,000-yard receiver over the past 2 seasons. Very, very productive college receiver. And when I see that, my first question is, don't be fooled by production, right? That's what I always ask myself. Are you being fooled by production? Because the kid put up, I want to say, like double-digit touchdowns. I think he had over 1,200 yards receiving, and he had over 100 receptions this past season. Of course, that number pops off at you. So I always want to look and make sure, is this kid feeding on cupcakes? You know what I mean? Like, let's make sure he's not feeding on cupcakes. Well, the first thing I will say is I found 5 games where this kid eclipsed the 100-yard mark. And another couple of games where he was pretty close to the 100-yard mark. He was around 90-some yards receiving. So he was a very productive player, but you could tell that from the 1,200 yards. So what was the level of competition the young man faced? Because let's be honest, this kid is coming out of a subdivision conference. And you have to ask yourself, does the American Athletic Conference stack up well enough? What are the teams that this kid played? What film are we looking at? Well, number one, the film I've been showing you today comes from Memphis, his game against Memphis, which, by the way, is the 26th ranked pass defense in the country last season. He played a lot of quality opponents, guys, even a top 10. He played against a top 10 opponent in terms of the pass defense, guys, and that was coming out of, USF, University of South Florida. They were the 6th ranked pass defense last season. He played Tulsa. Tulsa was the 37th ranked pass defense. He played North Texas. They were the 44th ranked pass defense. Tulane, they were the 63rd ranked pass defense. Temple, they were the 50th ranked pass defense. And even TCU, the 31st ranked pass defense. He played against quality competition. Don't get me wrong. As you can discover on any player if you dig far enough in there, he fed on a couple of cupcakes too. Houston, 124th ranked pass defense. ECU, 119th ranked pass defense, right? And then you got teams like Florida Atlantic, which are, somewhere around the middle. They're 80th ranked pass defense. So not horrible, not great. Still quality, though. You're not going to beat him up over that. The kid played a quality, competition here. He played against decent pass defenses. Even some would be categorized as damn near elite, guys. So I do like this young man. I think this young man is talented. Now, here's what I'll say. I'm uncomfortable with his complete, receiving route tree. I'm not comfortable with that route tree, guys. He does not show the vertical capabilities for what I think the Eagles need. Now, as with any player, it's all about who you're going to get with this young man. I like Van Jefferson a lot. I think Van Jefferson is a much more polished route runner than James Proche. With that said, I think James Proche is probably a better value pick in this draft because I think Van Jefferson will go a little higher than him. I think Van Jefferson, you're looking at 3rd round, maybe into the 4th, more likely the 3rd round. I think James Proche, you're looking at later 4th, possibly 5th round. So, it's a value pick. I don't think Van Jefferson has enough film to make you feel comfortable in his vertical receiving capabilities, but I think he's one of the best underneath route runners, period, in this draft class, period. I think James Proche has some ability. He does put some things on film. He's got very strong hands. He makes some really spectacular catches, but I'm also concerned as well with his vertical route tree. But these are my thoughts on this young man. And you already know what I'm going to ask. I want to know, what are your thoughts? All right, guys, tell me what you think below. Tell me what you think about this guy. I mean, yeah, he intrigued me a little bit, guys. I mean, I like the kid. I mean, not someone I would target if I was the Eagles, but if you're sitting there in the 5th round and the kid's still hanging around, you kind of met all your needs, you're looking for the best player available, hey, I'm not going to be upset with that pick. I think this kid has a chance to really work out and become a pretty good slot receiver. He's one of these slot receivers who can be a slot receiver and have outside capabilities. So these are my thoughts. I want to know your thoughts. But you know how we end these videos. EAGLES. All right, y'all. Let's go Eagles, guys.